Hello, I'm Monsignor Lisante. This week on Personally Speaking, my guest is Monsignor Hilary Franco, who now works as an advisor to the UN. But importantly, he's had a relationship with six popes, which he outlines in a wonderful book called Six Popes, as well as talking about his relationship with Archbishop Fulton Sheen, his good friend, and Mother Teresa. Stay with us. Hello and welcome to Personally Speaking. I'm your host, Monsignor Jim Lisante, and Monsignor Hilary Franco joins me now. On April 6, 2021, Monsignor Franco celebrated his 66th anniversary of priestly ordination, and last month he released his latest book entitled Six Popes, the subtitle, A Son of the Church Remembers, which reflects on his personal accounts of historical moments and figures in the Catholic Church. Monsignor Hilary Franco talks about his experiences from his time serving under Pope John XXIII, Pope Paul VI, Pope John Paul I, Pope John Paul II, Pope Benedict, and Pope Francis. Monsignor Franco was ordained a priest at the age of 22 in Rome. By the age of 24, he had achieved a doctorate in biblical theology from the Pontifical Lateran University in Rome as well. He went on to receive a master's degree in sociology from Fordham University and then a further degree in canon law at the Lateran University. Monsignor Franco currently represents the Vatican at the United Nations as an advisor at the Office of the Permanent Observer of the Holy See to the UN. He's here with us today to talk about his new book, his 66 years of service as a priest, and some of the many public figures he has encountered and befriended throughout the years. Joining me now, I'm very pleased to welcome to Personally Speaking, Monsignor Hilary Franco. I'd like to welcome Monsignor Franco on our show.
Monsignor, you are so wonderful, and it's a pleasure to be with you here.
Thank you, Monsignor. I feel the same way about you. We had dinner a long time ago with your friend Rosanna Scotto.
I remember. That's right. Still, you still look as great as that time.
You can do no wrong. After you say that, you can do no wrong. Do you see Rosanna much?
I will see her on the 14th at 9:45.
Okay, good for you.
9:45 in the morning. This thing is really, I have so many requests, I don't know what to do.
Isn't that wonderful, though? Well, for our listeners and for our watchers around the country and the world, Six Popes is the name of the book, A Son of the Church Remembers. So, Monsignor, I'm going to start with a question that's kind of off the book, but it's on, because you talk about your vocation. So my first question would be, when you look back at so many decades of priesthood, would you do it again?
This is really a beautiful question. I'll tell you why. Because usually when I celebrate my anniversary of ordination, which is usually on the 9th, no, not usually, it's always on the 9th of April every year. I always make, some of us priests once in a while make an examination of conscience, whatever, on those kind of things. And I have to tell you that I always come up with a strange thing. I said, I'm trying to find, let's see, probably a day or a month that I could say that I, in some way, I was kind of regretting the fact that I had become a priest.
Right.
I couldn't find it so far. Probably, you never know. I'll never forget when Pope Benedict was elected. And he had a beautiful meeting with Cardinal Martini, because he was one of his great electors, as they say, whatever, in the conclave. And when they came out, they said the only thing that we talked about was the virtue of perseverance. Mm. That I'll never forget. That's important for us, Monsignor. We have to pray for that. So. Up until now, I would say I am so grateful to the good Lord and the Blessed Mother. They allowed me to use my my priesthood to do whatever they wanted me
to do great things, and a lot of that is in the book. Monsignor, for the sake of our listeners and watchers who probably are unfamiliar with the name, and some of them who know the name don't like the name because of the woman who once had it, tell us how you got the name Hilary.
That's a beautiful question, and I'll tell you why. Because I had my uncle.
Okay.
You know, let me start by saying that this name has been in my family for generations, many generations, but it was Hilario. Okay, so remember, it's, by the way, it's Hilary with one L, not two L's.
That's right.
Clarify a very important issue, and I always have to repeat it. It's with Hilary with one L, namely Hilary of Poitiers, Saint Hilary of Poitiers, the 12th book of Le Trinitate, and so on and so forth. How about it has been in my since probably the 16th, 17th century.
Wow.
So much so that I have seen it and actually taken photo of the beautiful granite tomb of some of my ancestors. And Hilary, everything was in Latin naturally. So what happened? My uncle, I don't know if you know this, but my uncle was a priest of the Archdiocese of New York for many years.
Yes,
Since he was ordained in 29, and he was with the Archdiocese in 1932, to be exact, until he died. He was 85 in 1985, because he was 85. And his name was Hilario. So when I was ordained, they said, "Hey, wait a minute. Now you can't be junior, Hilario, So we ended up by saying, Hilary in the Archdiocese. It's Hilary, but the original is Hilario, Ilario.
Monsignor, when people see a book like Six Popes and they think, well, this guy knows all the big people in the church, but what they may forget about you, I wanted to talk about it for a moment, is that you actually have a lot of pastoral experience. You were the pastor up in St. Augustine in Ossining. Tell us about the years when you were pastor there. As part of your priesthood, what did you take away from that experience? Like, how did your time there enrich your life?
I'll tell you, that was really... again, I say this in the book, so clearly, when I was ordained, by the way, with a papal dispensation when I was 22.
Yeah.
So as you do know, at that time, 24, you had to be 24 for the law, but I guess I was ready, whatever they said, yes, you obey. So what happened was, even at that time, I always kept my diaries. That's why it was easy, to write my book. And I have wrote that my aspirations was to be with the people of God at all times. And I wanted some pastoral experience. So even though as a young priest, I was sent to Our Lady of Mount Carmel for 3 months, and then St. Dominic's on Uniport Road, and then 3 years, a month, and 20 days in Staten Island, the Assumption, whatever. Then later on, after I served with Bishop Sheen, I was for not even 6 months, and Our Lady of Victory, Mount Vernon, and I always tried, whenever I would be free, even in my 26 years in Rome, I'd always go to a place to say Mass, to be active in the parish whenever I could. And so that was my aspirations. Even when I was in Washington, stationed in Washington, I would always go to St. Jude's to help out in a parish because I wanted to be. So my real aspiration was to be with the people of God. So I was
I appreciate you saying that.
The thing was when John Joseph O'Connor, agreed with me that, and we found this parish. At the beginning, I had, there was not really the best parish, let me put it, in the Archdiocese. But then I with my, I guess, a little bit of enthusiasm, together, we did. I found a small school with 209 kids. When I left, I had 621.
That's
so
great.
I mean, I built, in addition to the school, my principal at the time, who was wonderful at the time, even now, wonderful nun, and Dominican nun said, Monsignor, we can't build an addition to the school, but we have no place. We cannot take.
That's a great problem to have, Monsignor. Monsignor, in the book, obviously you talk about the experience of the Holy Fathers, but right. I wouldn't want people to miss the fact that you go into great detail too in the book about knowing two people who were very important to us, obviously one Fulton Sheen and the other being Mother Teresa, which I'll talk about in a moment. But let's go to Archbishop Fulton Sheen for a second. Two things that people say sometimes when they're being critical of him would be that he was incredibly talented, but that he also knew he was incredibly talented and had an ego to match. You were with the man. Was there true humility in the man?
Okay. Well, this is a very, very. I'm grateful to you for asking this question, because I want to clarify. I lived with the man. I'm the last surviving member of the household of the man.
Right.
We're only three people in the house. The bishop, myself, 109 East 38th Street. That's where not far from where I live now.
Okay.
The third person was Frederick, who was a Norwegian Lutheran who had left the service of Billy Rose, was a tremendous chef, and to come and serve the bishop, just to give you a glimpse, of whatever. Now, this man, early in the morning, I actually mentioned this in my homily yesterday. I said, my surprise when I was named assistant to him, I arrived, then I stayed overnight. And the first night I remember, I said, well, let me get up early. So go down and see that everything is ready for the chapel. And so I go down those steps and I said, oh, that's my first boo-boo. I said, look at this. I have I have left the light in the chapel. I said, I could say, wow. To make a long story short, I opened the door and there he was already. And from 5:30 in the morning, he would kneel down in front of his Lord, the Blessed Sacrament, and that kneeler that now is in the crypt where he was buried up until not long ago in the Cathedral of St. Patrick. Now, did he have let me tell you, he wrote so much about the ego and the egotism and egoism and so on, that he used to use those kind of things.
Right.
I'll tell you, whatever he did, he was really truly convinced of what he was saying. So, but he felt that his image on television, we're talking about an audience of almost 40 million people. I mean, come on. I hope one day, Monsignor Lisante, you will have that kind of audience, but
nobody will touch him, that's for sure.
So, but it was a tremendous, when you have so many fans, I'll never forget, whenever we would go anywhere, even around the world, during the council, I would be with him. As you do know, I was his expert and the expert of the American bishops. So it was an incredible thing. Everyone would know it's 72 bestsellers translated into so many languages, including the Italian language. So he would always be called for, I would say down deep, he did not have an ego. However, he knew that he had to, how can I say, have an image, so to speak, create an image. And television at that time was needed to have it. He was a star, and as such, I think it's easy to say, well, listen, he had an ego because he showed himself to have an ego. But down deep in his humility, great humility, I lived with the man.
Right.
Day and night. We had important people coming for lunch from the King and Queen of Belgium, to who also had Victor Anderson, who was a leper, a cured leper, that every Friday came, had dinner with us at 6 p.m. at 109 East 38th Street. His family was from New York, actually, and his family did not want him back. So the bishop took care of him, got an apartment for him, and then he would have dinner with us every Friday.
Isn't that great? Isn't that wonderful?
Victor
Well,
Deluxe.
let's go to another
You
chapter
know,
of the
just,
book, Monsignor. In the book, you also talk about the fact that one of the people who wanted to meet Archbishop Fulton Sheen was a then unknown young sister who turned out to be Mother Teresa. When you made the arrangement for her to see Fulton
Yes.
Sheen, did you sense in her the greatness that we would come to know?
All right. I did not know anything about this Mother Teresa at that time. We are talking about, remember, during the council.
Okay.
So until you know what happens in our diplomatic corps, you are switched from one place to another. So there was a relatively at that time young Monsignor. His name was Pio Laghi, Monsignor Pio Laghi.
Right.
So he had been stationed in India. Now he's in the Secretary of State. So he since we were friends, you know, kind of, you know, from the Roman seminary and whatever, you know, all those kind of things, we kept he got in touch with me and he said, you know, do you think that the bishop would like to see this nun? There is an Indian nun. Actually, she's not Indian, but she has been in India for a long time. And she's doing something like the apostolate for the homeless in Rome for the first time. He said, do you think that the bishop would like to see her? So I went to the bishop. I didn't know who she was. And I said, you know, so-and-so. I related the message. The bishop looked at me and he said, you know, why not? Why not? So here I am in my old dilapidated, you know, I don't know, it was third-hand car that I had gotten for the council. The bishop, you know, was always afraid that I would end up with some kind of an accident, but we had no GPS, so I had to find, you know, in Via Tor Fiscale, it's outside of Rome. I don't know how I found it, but Pio Laghi gave me the address, and I arrived in this place. We arrived in this place, you know, the Baracati. You know, Baracati is the homeless there. They had those kind of I don't know, what do you call them? Shacks, whatever they had. And in one of these shacks, there was this kind of tiny nun with another 7 nuns. And the funny thing was this, that they were so gracious, you know, to the famous star. Remember, you know, this is Fulton Sheen being a star, you know, already, you know. And and the mother and the other sisters, actually, they would never, like later on, I would see, you know, in my masses, because I would say mass for the sisters. She actually asked me, I want you to say mass for my sisters. So I had the Casa Dono de Maria on Wednesday morning at 6:30, and the Alcelio, San Gregorio Alcelio, were the mother house, so to speak, you know, every Saturday morning. I remember when she asked me that, you know, she said to me, now, I want you to say mass to the sisters here later on, when she is already very famous. and I said, what time? Until now, he said, well, it's up to you, you know, from 4 o'clock to 6:30. So I jumped in immediately. I said, 6:30. But every time that she would be there, you know, coming to Rome, you know, visit, and so she would always be in the back of that horrible place, so much so that the sisters had to clean you know, like the entrance to the chapel when there was pouring rain, you know, just to give you a glimpse. But she would always be in the back, not leaning, but, you know, the Indian way of sitting on their legs. So that was, let's go back to the first encounter. And there they were. I saw these 7 sisters. They got up when the bishop came in, and actually, you know, they greeted him and so on, and then they went back. There was no chair. So one of the sisters said, oh, there's no chair for His Excellency, you know. And then she ran on another barrack, you know, one of the neighborhood homeless people, you know, to get a kind of a chair. And the bishop said, you know, no, when I always love to stand up, especially when I speak. So that was the first encounter with Mother. And I do have to confess that even though it was a first encounter, I mean, I'm sure that Monsignor, that happened to you so many times. When you see someone, you have a kind of almost a feeling, so to speak. And after that, I have plenty to do with her, because I have actually right now in my office, I have one of the few pictures that I have. I have a picture of me with a lot of hair, Monsignor, more than you, when Cardinal Spellman is announcing to the press that Bishop Sheen has been named the Bishop of Rochester. I had a lot of hair, but anyhow, but the one picture that I have is with Mother Teresa and the last visit here in New York. So it's the two of us. I'm now almost kneeling down. She's in a wheelchair and sickly, and now I can say this, to you, and she's telling me, you remember, when we went to Moscow after Gorbachev for the first house for the homeless. I said, Mother, do I remember? You gave me so many problems. I remember that very well. She said, but she didn't care what I said. She was very tough, remember? and she said, now we have 17 homes between Moscow and St. Petersburg. And that was beautiful. But I knew that she had something. And this is something that I did not put in the book. Because she said, now I want you to be with me, because they want me to go. I'm saying this is the first time to China. Wow. And now this picture was taken, I don't know by whom, with a cheap camera. You remember those cheap cameras with the date? And that date is so important. 24th, it's right here next to me. 24th of June, 1997. As you do know, the good Lord will call her on the 5th of September, 1997. So she was ready to go. Even though she was sickly, she was in a wheelchair, she was ready to go, whatever, the Lord. That's a great example for all of us. Yes. I mean, you're a kid, but...
Monsignor Franco, I got to interrupt you because we're running out of time, but we haven't gotten halfway near some of the things we could talk about, because your book goes into such detail about so many wonderful people, including, of course, our Holy Fathers. So we're going to have you on again. But before I let you go and we get hopefully our listeners and our watchers to pick up Six Popes, subtitle, A Son of the Church Remembers by Monsignor Hilary Franco. Let me ask you this. I hope you're around to do many, many more programs like this with many of us. But if tomorrow the Lord calls you home, are you ready to go? And do you believe in heaven?
Do I have one more minute?
Sure.
I'll tell you a story, beautiful story of Mother Teresa. May I?
Yes.
Okay. So one day she calls and she says, there is this, we're in Rome. I'm in Village Street, in the afternoon after, whatever. So she used to call all the time, and she said, well, I want you here this afternoon because this journalist is coming from Milan. He wants to interview me. So you couldn't say no to Mother Teresa, remember. So arrived. And this wonderful journalist, he had come just to write a book, which he did later on, and a lot of questions. And at one point, he says, Mother, are you afraid of dying? And usually, I know Mother Teresa so well. Usually, she was so prompt in responding, but she did not. And that particular question, she did not. And I figured, something, sure enough, after about 3 other questions, and all of a sudden, she says, oh, by the way, you asked me a question before if I'm afraid to die, Are you from Rome? Oh, he said, I'm from Milan. I came, just to interview you because I'm writing this book, So your home is Milan, am I right? Yeah, right, So you're anxious to go home? Well, what do you mean? Of course, I have my wife, I have my children there. I'm waiting. Of course, I'm anxious to go home. It's Oh, by the way, you asked me a question before. If I'm afraid of dying, you are not afraid of going home, are you? And the guy said, I said, I'm anxious to go home. Well, that's what happens to me. You see, up there, I have my spouse. And I have also all those old people that I got in the streets of Calcutta, and I made them like die a death with dignity. They're all waiting there to have a big party for me, waiting up there. So the answer is I'm not afraid of going home.
Okay. That's beautiful. I love that. And when you get there, Mother Teresa will be waiting for you. I want to thank Monsignor Hilary Franco for being with us and talking about 6 popes and so much else. Monsignor, please come on again and again, because we have so much to cover. You have a lifetime of stories to tell. What a life you've lived. What a priesthood you've shared. And we're so grateful for all that you share with us today. And we'll be back with more of Monsignor Franco in days to come. Thank you so much, Hilary, for being with us.
Thank you so much, Monsignor, for a beautiful. This is really great, and I'm so grateful to you for having me on your show.
As we end today's program, I want to thank all of you for being with us. If you have any questions or comments about the show, you can reach me at personallyspeakingpodcast@gmail.com. You can also go to past episodes by going to YouTube and punching in Personally Speaking with Monsignor Jim Lisante. And don't forget to click, like, and subscribe. Also, Personally Speaking is available as a podcast on personallyspeakingpodcast.buzzsprout.com or www.closeencountertv.com or www.ollmp.org. I'd like to thank all of you who are out there supporting our program. Personally Speaking is also on Facebook at Personally Speaking with Monsignor Jim Lisante. Please share and let others know about Personally Speaking. Personally Speaking is made possible by the generosity of many. I hope you'll be one of the people supporting our program. I'm privileged to serve as host and executive producer of Personally Speaking. Our producer is Lisa Jandovitz. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll be with you again next time on Personally Speaking.